Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Turnbuckle Sessions. I am your host, the OG Fig Kid, Thomas Montalto. And today we're doing it different. Today I have Mike Belcaster with me. Say hello, Mike.
Howdy, guys. How y'all doing?
We're bringing you a special episode. We're going to sit down and we're going to break down what we experienced live in person this past Friday night in Chicago at the United Center with the return of CM Punk.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
We'll just start with that.
Yeah, it was so much fun. What a night to experience. I know you've been to a lot more live events than me, Mike. How does this rate for you? How did the whole experience?
Man, it's hard to put in the words how special this was, and I've seen a lot of cool debuts in my lifetime. I've seen Chris Jericho, I've seen John Cena, I've seen the NWO on Raw. This was one of the biggest things that I think I'll ever do in my lifetime as a wrestling fan. Just being in the crowd, it wasn't a pop. We were all like communally rolling. We were 7 years built up and like frustration, fandom, everything, and it all came to a head at the perfect moment. And I mean, I've rewatched it several times. I've listened to podcasts about it. I've listened to interviews about it. It was the most magical thing that I've ever been to as a fan, and it's like I'm speechless. I can't even. We were rooting. We weren't cheering. We were like, yeah, CM Punk, and the whole crowd was there with us. It was everybody was feeling in those moments. From the guy that was crying they showed on TV, there was several 100 people that were crying in the audience, shedding tears of joy, happiness.
Too. Yeah, you couldn't hold it back after a while. Once he started talking, is when it hit me. Like, it was friggin' crazy. And the other amazing thing about it is it was one big family there that night. Everybody was just with each other. All the stupid crap of like people arguing over politics or whether you should be vaccinated or not. Everybody was there as a family. Like it was an awesome distraction. Everybody next to each other, they were just friends. It was people high-fiving each other and hugging people they didn't even know.
Yeah.
I was like high-fiving a guy next to me and like I never met him before. It was crazy. We were all there for one reason, and that's why they sold all those tickets. And it was electric. And what people didn't see on TV is one of the things we were lucky to see was Tony Khan coming out and greeting the crowd. And that's when it got real, man, because he was just like a giddy little kid up on that stage.
Right, I don't think with us.
He couldn't even compose himself. I think he was so friggin' happy. It was just about to happen. He got emotional up there. The video is on my Instagram if you could hear him over the deafening crowd that was there.
It was that itself really, like, Tony was with one of us. He was in the crowd with us, and Vince doesn't do that. When Jericho's coming out, he wasn't like, the timer's clicking down, kids. He's like, it wasn't one of those things where he was just like, be prepared. Tony really, really respects the fans, and he cares about the fans. And that totally sold it, and that was beautiful on its own too, man. Like I love little giddy Tony Khan speeches, and like that was a first for us to see it in person. But
yeah,
like he I love you, Chicago. And he was just so happy to be there with us, and he knew how important it was for all of us. That was so cool.
Yeah, with everything he said, the way he thanked us for the support and how much that meant to him, and telling us we were going to have a great night and we were going to be getting what we were there to see without saying what it was. And in that moment from when he walked off the stage to the beginning of Rampage, because that was only a minute, the deafening crowd, the CM Punk chant was just, when his music hit, you couldn't even hear the music. Like, you heard it for a second and then it was just an eruption that like didn't even know what was going on anymore. It was like my voice. Today's Monday. This was Friday night, and my voice is almost 100% today.
I'm still a little
Which,
scratchy, but it's
yeah,
in a good way. Uh,
yeah, I
yeah,
have it a little bit. I can't do everything as normal, but it's better than it was.
definitely.
Um,
But that's what I mean. It was we all did it. Like it was so awesome, and especially it couldn't have been better because after our lockdowns, not being at shows for 2 years, like, and this is the first time AEW comes to Chicago after everything, you know, and it's still crazy out there, but everybody put it down for an hour, and then we
yeah.
got to we got and that 19 minutes and 28 seconds of Punk being out there doing his thing, man, and you could just see how happy he was. He was crying. He crowd surfing, he jumped into the crowd. Everybody's taking pictures, and so it felt like it was like Christmas morning. We finally got the best. We all got our number one toy that we never got in our entire lifetime, and it was such a just amazing emotional night.
I mean, I can't explain it. I've the only thing I've been to close to anything that was that exciting, and it was being a little kid in Madison Square Garden for the brawl to settle it all, and Mr. T's in the front row, and like I remember my dad just saying, "Oh my God," because I loved the A Team. Everybody loved the A Team back then, and my dad's telling me, "Look, Mr. T's in the front row. There's Mr. T," and I couldn't. I'm a little kid trying to see over anybody, but then he jumped over the barrier and he goes to get in the ring and you talk about the Madison Square Garden shaken. Holy mackerel! Like that was me. When you're a kid, everything is amazing. Like is even better. So like I still have that vivid memory in my head that like that was the greatest moment I had been to, like the most exciting, I'd been to up until at that point I was only 9, up until this past week, and it's just two totally different experiences because
Yeah,
this we knew what we were going for. We knew how great it was going to be. It was in Chicago.
yeah,
There hasn't been a wrestling event in Chicago for 7 years where there wasn't a CM Punk chant.
yeah,
There
100%.
hasn't been. Um, the fact that they gave it back to Chicago, like just a classy, smart move, because they knew the reaction it would get. I mean, he would have gotten an amazing reaction no matter where he was, but that home crowd is always something special. Like
Yeah,
we saw, like last week or 2 weeks ago in Pittsburgh with Britt Baker's
absolutely.
response in a hometown. That was a special night for Britt. But for CM Punk to come back after 7 years, in his hometown, and he was like, I've heard people say, "Oh, it was the normal disingenuine Punk." Like, no, like, what are you talking about? Like, did you not see? Like, he's not gonna well up like that. Like, how overwhelmed he was by everything. I don't think he knew he was going to be affected like that.
Yeah,
Um, and then for him to say in 2005 he left pro wrestling, and now August 20th, 2021, he's back. Like I'm getting goosebumps again just talking
yeah.
about it.
Now the
Like
hair's
like
still sticking up. I'm telling
oh
you.
my gosh! Like I said, I've watched it so many times. I've watched it I think 3 or 4 times yesterday. Um, and I watched the whole thing. I don't just fast forward. Like I have to watch every moment of it.
Yeah,
Um, I just like compare it to some of the events you've been to before. You said you've been there for Jericho's debut, and I know you were there for NWA debuting on Monday night. NWO debuting on Monday Night Raw. Like how did that compare to some of the events you've been to before?
I mean, crowd wise, the emotion wise, I think the closest thing I could say I was at that was like that was when Hogan and The Rock got into the ring for the first time and they did the stare down, because it wasn't even like the crowd was just like, wow, and they just pre the truck segment where they beat him up and threw him in the ambulance. This was the biggest moment of, like, just my generations of wrestling. This was as big as it got. So I think this, and CM Punk surpassed that, and I mean that in like every bit, from just getting to be in the crowd for it to the ice cream bars, the t-shirts, the everything was just so, it was poetry. It was we got to see art being made in front of us, and it wasn't like paint by numbers. It was this, we got to see Van Gogh do his thing live in person, and it was just everybody was there for it. And like I still haven't even seen the rest of the Rampage, because I'll throw that on. I'm like, shit, it was so good. I got to rewatch it one more time. And that's how I feel with it right now. I feel like it's just this might be one of the biggest moments in pro wrestling history ever.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever imagine here we are in 2021, we'd ever have a wrestling moment like this that would affect us the way that it has again?
No, like I said, like Jericho was cool when he came out on Raw. You know, it
Yeah,
was big, but it wasn't. The crowd didn't love Jericho yet. You know, they loved
yeah.
Jericho from WCW, but it wasn't as big as this. And then like John Cena came into that show challenging Kurt Angle. Majority of the crowd was like, "Who the hell's this guy?" And we were just like, "Okay," and it was cool. He got a good pop when he almost beat him, but nothing compares to the emotions. Like, because we all anybody who's watched WWE for the last 10, 15 years, they know Punk. They've seen his best work being done, and it was hard for him to establish himself in their system. And he fought he fought through everything possible you could get thrown at you to do this. So, and this felt like it was the most easiest thing in the world for him, but also it was the best. And like I feel like his emotions matched ours. He wasn't
Yeah.
trying to leave pro wrestling when he had to. It he was literally like he said in his promo, he was unhealthy. He was sick there. And that just comes from years of fighting for your spot, years of putting yourself in that position to try to do what you can to make the business a better place. And it was impossible because it was just the one company at the time. You could say your arguments about Impact and all that stuff, and all the respect to them, but they just weren't at the WWE level. And it's been what 20 something years since we've had a company at the WWE level, so we're looking at something that's just magical, like absolutely magical. Like somebody cast a spell when the AEW doors opened, and I feel like the pandemic made it even better because now we're not taking for granted. Oh, we got a show next weekend. We got to go out, go see it. Blah blah. It's not just your average stuff anymore. Now it's like, oh, well, AEW is coming to Chicago. It's a must to go see them do their thing in person, regardless of the Punk thing. They were drawing big crowds as it is. They were doing great, but this was the frosting on the cake. This was the cheese on the beef. This was everything you could have ever wanted. This is exactly why we're all fans of pro wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, for years I've said it to the Chads, I believe, and I've said it for a while. I'm like, man, I wish I could get that same feeling that I had as a kid when I watched wrestling. It would be so exciting. It would end, and you couldn't wait for the next week to come on because whatever happened. And I've got that feeling back. And I literally thought that was a feeling that only happens when you're a kid because everything's greater when you're a kid. And back when I was a kid, there was no internet, there was no spoilers. You had to literally subscribe to dirt sheets to get them in the mail. They did newsletters and stuff like that. um so like the wrestling industry has changed, but this company AEW has made it so that you don't know what to expect anymore. It's
Yeah,
changed the game. Like, okay, it's not predictable. They've brought back an excitement that has been lacking. Because look, a good example is if Brody Lee was in WWE when he was sick, God rest his soul, that news would have broke. Like, you
yeah,
have executives who talk to the dirt sheet sites and send news out that shouldn't be doing that, and you don't hear of anything out of AEW that they don't want getting out. And that says something a lot about the company, because if you're happy with where you're working, why would you be selling news or letting stuff out?
yeah. No, 100%. And even the Brody Lee tribute show was that was better than anything. That was one of my favorite moments in wrestling too, even though it was such a grim circumstance.
Yeah.
But they did it with grace. They handled it so properly. Uh, giving Brody's son the title, you know,
Yeah.
from the Dark Order matches, like everything was just it was beautiful, you know, like because this is what you want to see when there's bad stuff like that. It what like everybody says they want their funeral to be a celebration of their life, and what a damn celebration that was. Even when Eric Rowan came out, you know, it
Yeah.
was just like I cried like a baby. Like that his death was
Me
really
too.
close to home, and like hearing the stories, seeing the video packages, all that stuff, it was it was gut wrenching, you know, but it was also very beautiful. So I think that was just the beginning of seeing how much AEW actually cares. And
Yeah.
I still remember I was sitting online scrolling through social media and I seen that picture of Brody and I was like, oh cool, Brody's coming back. And then I read the thing and I was like you know, like took your breath away and you were like, what the hell happened? And that we didn't necessarily need to know what happened, you know, but it was just like they handled it so properly, and the fact that that the whole company, not just Tony Khan, but everybody gave Amanda Huber and their family so much love and you know support, emotionally support, you know, mental stuff. I still reading stories about it, and I love it. Like I love to hear the family love there, and it was just the best. And this is just moving on from like that. Like this was one of those things where it was like it wasn't the best. They did it purposely not to make it the best kept secret in the world, but it was the coolest thing because everybody was so excited. And the second Darby did that promo, and he was like, "I'll be in Chicago, and I'm going to take you on, even if you think you're best in the world." And it was just like boom, blew it up, and it goes to show like I know there's a lot of heat on the Jim Cornette Experience podcast, and he put it in such beautiful words. If he did it, he wouldn't. He's like it wouldn't have been. It would have been worse than how they did it. He said this was the most perfect moment in this generation's pro wrestling. You know, he put it over so hard from everything from Punk coming out. You know, he said just exactly what you said. You couldn't hear the music. He's like until the fans started singing it, you couldn't hear the music, and then he cuts the beautiful promo, and you got somebody who sits down Indian style in the ring, child's pose, and you know he sits down and gets the biggest pop of his life. You got them hook, line, and sinker, you know, and he goes through a spiel. It was perfect time. We could probably heard him talk for an hour. It would have been happy,
I would have
but
been happy if he talked for an hour. I would not have complained.
absolutely. But then you get from there to the ice cream bars, the Andy Kaufman nod. You know, I do improv. I'm a big comedian guy. Andy Kaufman's like an idol legend guy, you know, and it was hymns from the night he sold out Carnegie Hall and took everybody out for milk and cookies afterwards. And like I love that. That as not just a pro wrestling fan, as anybody who's in the entertainment loves to see stuff like that. You know, you get the vibe. You get the love from it, and Punk loves us. You know, he when he got out there and he was just like, I can't say I would not understand if you guys were a little disheartened with how you know I made choices in my life. He's like, but I thank you all for being here for the last 7 years, and that was cool because I felt like there was a lot of people in that arena that really needed to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it amazes me. He said he had no idea what he was going to say when he got out there, and what he said was so perfect. Like it just shows you the difference between preparing something and just going with it.
Yeah,
Because like you could kind of tell he fed off of the crowd. You know, like he really did. You know, and then he apologizes for whatever. You know, it was so genuine what he said. Everything about it, like every bit. If you break down the whole promo, everything he did was perfect. And even the way he turned and he's like, "And Darby Allen," like he did it. It was like oh my god, here he is. He's getting ready to answer the challenge. Like I'm getting goosebumps again just thinking about it. Like because like I said, I've listened to it so many times and like it was so right from his heart. Like it couldn't have been any better. Um I just keep saying the same thing because I'm still in awe of the moment and loving it. But
Yeah,
and to experience it in person, and what the other people didn't see on TV was how happy he was when he gets up to the top of the ramp. He's hugging Mark Henry and he's shaking hands with Taz. Like that didn't make TV, but I stood there and I made sure I saw all of that just to see, just to take the moment in. I tried to take it in as best as I can, and it's ingrained up here now that
yeah,
it was just what a friggin' moment. So let's go back a little bit to the Mike Belcaster wrestling history here.
yeah,
This
absolutely,
is
man.
Turnbuckle Sessions, man. When did you first start watching wrestling? What are your earliest wrestling memories? And this is actually stuff we've never talked about. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
learn a little bit about you. So this is cool.
no, so super cool. So I mean, my mom and dad took me to my first show when I was a baby, and like I don't remember it. I have the card. Dustin Rhodes was on it. Like it was cool. It was just something. I think Hogan was there. It was at the Rosemont Horizon way back when. Uh, it was kind of always instilled. My brother was a fan when I was little, not to a point where I remember it. I remember playing with the Hasbros with them. I remember, just jacking his toys in the morning when he wasn't up, and I'd be playing with them and stuff. When we would go sleepovers, it was during Hogan Warrior time, so it was massive. I was born in 1987, so I missed out on some of the stuff, but like it's always been there. Like I remember being at a family party at my grandparents' house, and they had the old school black box, and like I turned on the pay per view at the time, and I seen Razor Ramon walking out, and he goes underneath the ladder, and like that was one of the very first moments that stuck out to me because it was like I love this guy. Like I don't care what I'm watching right now. It's like, hey yo, he's throwing the toothpick, very reminiscent of like just the time, it was and just started getting bigger and bigger over time. Probably a little bit after, like it was in between the Attitude Era and the New Gen Era. It wasn't completely the Attitude Era yet, but that's when I started collecting figures like on my own. I bought the Jack's Bone Crunching action figures. I had Bret Hart was the first one I bought. I remember buying it at Walgreens with my money, my little $7 weekly allowance that I got back in the day. And for like 2 weeks, I was playing with him in the car with just my hand. I was doing DDTs and power bombs with my fingers and stuff. I was like, these things are awesome. And I remember going back to the same Walgreens, and they had Diesel. So I was like, give me Diesel,
Ooh.
So I was like, awesome. I got Diesel and Brett, the two big guys. And then it kept going worse and worse because my dad was a big fan. So he was like, hey, man, let's go. My first Toys R Us from memory was going there and grabbing like 6 toys, the ring, and just being like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And when it just got bigger and bigger, and I started watching it weekly and weekly, and I never really stopped loving it. Like I was always a thing. Like I was still like even like everything's by toys for me. So I could say like right when the Titantron Live figures were starting to become a thing, I was probably like around 8th grade. I was still buying them. Like, but I would keep them in my closet when some of my friends came over. They wouldn't see this big massive thing of toys out there. And yeah, it was just like it just stuck with me, and like I would still like watch. I remember every pay-per-view it was me and my dad watching it at our house, and like we used to go to my grandmother's house for Nitro and Raw, and then like we'd go back home for Raw usually because Raw was a little later than Nitro. We had the 7 o'clock start time for Nitro and the 8 o'clock Raw time, and yeah, it was just always a big thing. And then my dad and I started going to shows all the time. And like you name it, like he always tried to get us the best seats because he was super into it. I've sat in like the closest I've been was front row for a couple house shows. I was third row for when Mick Foley turned into Cactus Jack against Triple H at SmackDown.
Wow.
Basically any cool show that happened in Chicago, I was there for it, all of them, and it was the best. Like there's if you scroll through the network somewhere between like 2001 and 2003, you can see me dressed in the front in like the fourth row, a camera side as the Hurricane, and I had the
Oh,
cape. I still got the cape autographed by him.
that's awesome.
But just like I've always been, it's just been there. It goes perfect with like my love for fan. Like I wasn't a baseball kid, I wasn't hockey, I wasn't football. I just loved pro wrestling, and like I remember taking amateur wrestling when I was just before I got to high school, and I almost got thrown up because I picked up a steel chair. And I was just joking, but I was just like, yeah, the coach grabbed it from me. He goes, "You make a lap, boy." And I was like, okay, like whatever. And then like even when I was like doing pee wee football, I would be drop kicking the things you would tackle, and like the coaches loved it. They would crack their asses up and like, yeah, it's wild. I even bought one of my old football coaches the Raw Jericho shirt the night he debuted because he's like, "You're getting out of practice early." He's like, "You better pick me up a shirt." And I was like, "All right, man, you got it."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So wow, that's awesome. I love hearing stories like this. Um, so eventually, then you're in love with wrestling, like the rest of us are. You actually get involved in the business a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah,
How'd that all come about?
it was. I want to say it was like 2011, maybe 2010. There was big ramblings that Billy Corgan was opening up a pro wrestling company based out of Chicago, and I was like, "How the hell do I get involved in this by any means? Like, what can I do to like just break into the business?" And I started my Twitter, and I was like, "Okay, I could tweet celebrities on here." It was like first one of my first tweets was Billy Corgan, how do I get involved in this? I will do anything from shining the referee's shoes to picking up, clothing that they throw on the floor, whatever it is, and never heard anything back. Just like I kept at it. I think I did it a few times, and then my mom, who worked down at the Teamster City in Chicago, as they call it. It's at Ashland Avenue, the big Teamster building, but they had an auditorium there. And one day she called me and she goes, "You'll never guess who was at my office today." And I was like, "Who?" And she goes, "The Barron brothers, who owned Resistance Pro Wrestling from Chicago, they wanted to use my venue, but I told them they have to talk to you first." So I was like, awesome, like this is cool. And I got on the phone with the owner, Jock, and it was a 3-hour phone call.
Wow.
Basically, just me telling him what I just told you, just going back and forth with wrestling, all this stuff. And they were like, "Okay, come to our, you know, third show at this point." It was down at the formerly the Excalibur. I don't know the name of the place anymore, but it's a giant like castle shaped building in the heart of the city. It used to be a nightclub, very Fight Club feel. It has 3 tiers of floors, reminiscent of like the Hammerstein Ballroom, but a lot smaller. Uh, and I went there. I had Harry Smith, who was their champion at the time. I made a custom Resistance Pro Championship belt for him for the toys, and I put it in the package with it, and I brought it with. I put the R Pro stick, like there was their postcards, but I put it all over the WWE logos and stuff like that. And I said, "Yeah, I'm going. Like this is awesome." Uh, so that day they handed me flyers. They said, "Go to the car show and ticket the town. Try to whatever you can. Come back when you're done." Show starts at 7. It was like maybe 3:30. I went out there, handed every flyer I possibly could. People were, not even batting an eye at me. I'm like, "Here, pro wrestling live, Billy Corgan live. You guys like Smashing Pumpkins? You're from Chicago." Boom, boom, boom. And I had like 20 left. And some guy came up and he goes, "I love pro wrestling. Can I get a few for my family?" I said, "Yes." So I give him like 5. And he's like, "You got tickets on you?" He's like, "Go buy tickets." He's like, "No, you got to go to the gate, all this stuff." So finally run out. It's like 6:45. The building's like 15, 20 minutes away, not including Chicago traffic. I get back and they're like, "Good job, kid. Uh, Come on, we'll bring you up to the locker room." And I'm like, all excited, but I'm trying to keep my composure and everything. And they bring me upstairs, and the first person I'm sitting on a couch. I see Billy Corgan walk in. He sits down next to this wrestler, the Almighty Sheik from California, awesome dude. And I'm just here watching them talk, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is so cool." And they're just going back and forth. And then Sugar Dunkerton, who's famously known as Pineapple Pete, uh, I was standing up, and he was like, "Hey, bro, come here. I need your help." He's like, can you work out at this spot with me real quick?" And like I was just there, like they're whipping me around like on the upstairs and where nobody could see it, and like arm lock, headlock, push me off, and then they're like, "Can we swear?" And I was like, "You guys could swear," because I was at the show before this. I was there as a fan. I got to meet Chet Kopic, who was friends with Macho Man Randy Savage, and
Wow.
he was wearing Macho Man's WrestleMania 3 robe. And I was like, "Oh my God, can I try it on?" And he goes, "Absolutely." So I have a picture of me in the Macho Man 3 robe, which is super cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I met Shane Douglas there. Bumped in the Raven. This was right before I started. And then they did a meet and greet, and it was Harry Smith and Billy Corgan in the ring. $20, get you up to the ring, pay them in cash. Let's get it done. I got into the ring, and I'm a big musician guy. Like I've been playing guitar for 20 years. My brother was a bigger musician than I was. We were very, very familiar with the Smashing Pumpkins, but the first thing I looked at Billy Corgan and said, I was like, "Fuck the music. This is what you need to be doing," because it was so awesome. It was great shows. And he giggled, and he's like, "Oh, that's cool." And then I took the picture. But yeah, so my mom's there. We're just sitting at this Excalibur place. So she's sitting down. The show's just starting. And she takes a seat. And Raven walks up to her and he goes, "Get up." And she's like, "What do you mean get up?" He's like, "That's my chair." She's like, "I don't see your name on it." And I'm like, "Mom, that's Raven. Like, stop." Like, yo, no, 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 no. Like, it's cool. And she's like, "No, fuck that." She's like, "My name's not, his name's not on the chair. My name's not on the chair." He's like, "I have to watch the matches." And she was like, "Oh, okay." But it was funny. It rolled over. We all love Raven. He's one of the best guys I've met in the business. And yeah, that's just the story of kind of how I got into it. From there on, there's this awesome kid, Sam Thompson, who was the timekeeper. His brother Zach was the ring announcer, like the ring interviewer, like the Mean Gene. He'd walk out to the ring like, "Hey, what's up?" And Sam Thompson unfortunately got really sick. He was a huge, awesome wrestling fan, and all the figures. I got some of his Hasbro's and stuff. Like all the love to the Thompson family, but he got super sick and he ended up passing away. And they needed somebody to ring the bell after that, and they were just like, "Well, you could do it." And I was blown away, and I looked at them and I said, "I promise I'll take this with the most respect possible." Especially Sam and all them. Like it was just crazy. So I finally became a timekeeper. I was on the stage. I got to sit next to the announcers. uh, I went out and bought a ball peen hammer because the bell was broken and you had to like do it with your finger. And I was like, "No, you got to ring that bell." Uh, and that was just so awesome to not only get to finally do it, but for it to be so important for the company. Because Sam was like one of the street team dudes. Sam did everything. He would pick up talent from the airport. He was just overall the best kid in the world. And his brother was so nice, and they were both such good people. And his brother is awesome, man. He's another improv guy. He works for Chicago Sports Improv, I want to say is the name of it. It was super cool. He's been on a bunch of shows and stuff lately. Just in the reboot of Mystery Science Theater that came out on Netflix a few years ago. Uh, but yeah, so that it was timekeeping for a while. Started picking up wrestlers from the airport. Like I picked up Sid Vicious, Raven a
Wow.
few times. Yeah, countless people. Super cool. So my mom was very into it. She was seeing me kind of live out my dream. My brother super into it. The whole family was behind me. My girlfriend at the time became my wife. Uh, like everybody was just happy. And
Mm.
I was all jazzed up. I went out and bought like a zoot suit. I was trying to be like that guy and be like, "I got this. It's gonna be awesome. Like you have to dress the part." And a few years, like not years, but a few months after that, uh, I proposed to my wife right before one of the shows. I was going to do it at the show, but I was like, "Oh no, I can't. I don't want the crowd to turn on." Rowdy Chicago fans, and that was just something really crazy because I got people like Raven, John Morrison were all there. They're all congratulations, dude. We heard through the ramblings you got engaged and all this shit. And it was just like, wow, like, I finally felt like I was doing it all. I was really getting deep in there. And then eventually we got signed for a reality show on AMC, and it was supposed to be like, I don't know if it was, you would say, a drama type deal. It was just like kind of unfolding the story behind why is this rock star doing pro wrestling, and that's how we got pitched. Like,
Oh, okay.
it was super cool. We were all so stoked. We all signed our non-disclosure contracts for the time being, and I believe it's long enough after, so I think I can still talk about it. But yeah, we all were kind of like, we're doing it. You know what I mean? Like we're finally all like, it was a group. Everybody in the company loved it. Like we were all trying super hard just to get it noticed, and it finally felt like we were getting somewhere. And they were like, we wanted to start working you in as a ring announcer. And I was like, hell yeah, like I could do that. And I at the time I said, hell yeah, I could do that. But I had the biggest amount of stage fright possible. Like probably my first show I worked, I probably sounded like Tony Khan. Like I was like, hey everybody, what's going on? Like I love you all. Like, but everybody was so supportive. A lot of good people. Like there was this guy Andre, he was the ring announcer at the time, and he's a marketing guy, so he couldn't make every show. So he was like, "Oh, I'm so happy they got somebody that can balance off, and I can't be there." And I was like, "Yeah, man, like it's cool." So I started doing ring announcing, bought a new zoot suit, started getting like, all right, I got this going down. Like, I was doing interviews with people and stuff like that. Like it was fun stuff. I got Madman Pondo threw me out of the ring one time. I got slapped in the chest by Vader. Just
Wow.
silly shit. This awesome dude, local worker. His name was Jay Bradley. He worked for WWE. He worked, he was in FCW when they were doing that. Robert Anthony, another good guy. Again, FCW, WWE. They were just with me all around the road, and I was busting my ass to get them everywhere. I helped them get their TV deal, which was like the old school ECW. It's on at 2 a.m. on local access stuff like that. So like I was going with them, Billy Corgan, and everybody in these meetings, and just like being a fly on the wall, trying to absorb everything and learn about everything. And uh, yeah, it was super crazy just to even be experiencing any of that, let alone with, somebody as awesome as Billy Corgan and so smart, and he was a genius for wrestling. Uh, I was a big fan of like Harley Race at this time. I was a big fan of like the old, NWA. So like me and him would bond over that. And it was like, yeah, man, like I'm so like we clicked really well. It was super cool. So yeah, it was wild. We started bringing in a lot more people. Like Kevin Nash came in for us, Bobby Lashley, uh, you name it. Like it was really exploding, and we were about, I want to say, 6 or 7 episodes into filming the reality show, uh, and they were just like, "Yeah, man, the AMC is pulling all reality programming. We were on the middle of the road, going all the way out to Minnesota for our first big out of state show." And it was, everybody was in these vans with camera crews, and it was just like we stopped at a rest stop on the side of the road, and they're like, yeah guys, it's canceled, but we're going to continue film today, and we'll see what happens. So we go all the way out to Minnesota, do the show. DDP was there, we had Raven again. Like it was super cool, but then like it kind of slowly dissolved after that. We got back. I think we did like 2 more shows afterwards, 2 or 3 more shows where I was involved, and we just kind of took our hats out of the thing. Billy was like, "Nah," he's like, "It's not good anymore." And I don't want to get into the details. I'm not trying to drag anybody through the mud, but yeah, Billy kind of picked out the people that he really seen working their asses off, and he said, it's time to wrap up here and like let's move on to brighter pastures. And from there, it was just, the one of the hardest moments of my life was shooting that text message to the 2 bosses and saying, I can no longer work with Resistance Pro. I'm sorry, but thank you guys for the opportunity. And I kind of hung my hat up with it there. Of course, I've still involved with it in any way possible. I was in the midst of talking about making a new wrestling company with Billy, and this is when he was working for Impact. And I had this vision of making the NXT version of Impact. Like, and it took a while to get through. Like, it was like, oh, we got to buy a 6-sided ring. He's like, why? Why would we buy a 6-sided ring? I was like, well, because they have 6-sided, like little pieces here and there. I was like, you want to train the guys to work the 6-sided ring, right? Stuff like that. And that like financially was getting way out of hand. So I kind of like died back on it. It was just like, all right, well, maybe we'll think about this down the line. I was like, spending $10,000 every month on shows is going to kind of kill me. So, yeah, it was really cool. But I met a lot of good friends. I had a lot of cool conversations with people I never like thought I would. I got to take some of my heroes and idols out to lunch, go to dinner with them. Like, I remember Mikey Whipwreck came in for one show, and I was like super, super big ECW guy. And Mikey was one of my favorites because he was like, he was a goofball, but a serious goofball. When he got into the ring, he would like go crazy. Like you just kind of got captivated with him. Loved seeing him work with Foley and stuff. And I sat down and I was like, please talk to me about like all this stuff. Like, I was to be tag team champions in ECW with Mick Foley. You got all the way up to all these other places. It was cool. And he was just like, yeah, he's the nicest guy in the world. I was like, let's go to lunch. And I took him to Portillo's, a staple of Chicago.
Oh,
Yeah.
a staple.
And I went to go buy him lunch and my card declined.
Oh,
I was cracking up and he just started laughing his ass off. He's like, are you ribbing me? He's like, this is fucking hilarious. So like, and I was just like, oh shit, I don't know what happened. And it was like little things happen like that all the way. Yeah, I could go back and forth. One cool, really cool story was we were shooting an episode where we had to find a training center for the students and stuff like that. So it was me, my buddy Giovanni, who's one of the best. He's like my best friend I met through this. I still like we hang out all the time. We love each other to death. Like it's the coolest thing, best relationship that I got out of the whole thing. But we were all sitting there. We set up the ring. We're in the middle of Highland Park in an old abandoned firehouse. So it's tiny. There's no ceilings, none of this shit. Raven's there. He's cracking up. He's like, you can't fucking do anything here. You can't suplex anybody. He's like, what are you going to do? What do you want me to train people? Like, what is this? So he's like, Belcaster, get some shorts on. He's like, let's go. You're getting in the ring for the camera. I was like, okay. Like, I was a little husky still at the time. And I was like, oh no, like this is going to be crazy. And Raven was just like, I'm going to teach you how to run the ropes, and like stuff like that. He taught me how to, Sabu used to do the spike to the forehead. So you take a big nail out and you stab the guy. He's like, come on, I want to show you how to do it. And I was like, oh shit. Like, so I'm sitting there and I got all the students around me and I'm the guinea pig, he's like, you would hold it like this. And I'm like, ah. And I really clicked with Raven a lot. It was the time of my life, and I haven't, once it all ended, I was like kind of, I don't want to say bitter, but I was a little like slighted. Like, I don't know if I could do this. I was heartbroken. Let's put it that way. It killed me to not be doing that again, especially just because of how fun it was. Like, it was the longest days of my life, but they were always the funnest. Every show was like a family reunion, when my daughter was born, all the wrestlers were taking pictures with her in the ring. They were running around. They were doing photo shoots. They're holding her up in the background. Marche Rocket, who was a former Sessions guest. He was just, he's another guy, one of the sweetest dudes in the world. One of my best, like everybody that I still talk to and keep connections with, best friends of my life. Like Robert King, great guy. His brother Justin, awesome dude. I have to take a minute to talk about Robert King because he really, really helped me without me even knowing he was helping me. Like, he was always in my ear. All right, here's the match card. He's like, do you want to know what's going on? Do you want to know what's going on? I was like, always keep me out of the loop. I want to be just as surprised when shit's going down. And, stuff like that. Look at me. Mike, we got eye contact while I'm in the ring. Crowd's wild. I got you. 1, 2, 3. Mike, ring the bell. And like, he always kept me on my toes. I never missed a bell except for one time. It was like he was always just so awesome about it, and like just keeping me smartened up. Always like keep your eyes on this. If you see me and look at me, like by that time I was ring announcing, timekeeping, doing it all. So I had the stopwatch. I had to look at that, keep my hand on the hammer just in case. They're like, give me the go home when there's like 30 seconds left. I'm like, Rob, go, go. And like, awesome guy, man. Like I love all these people, like with all my heart and soul. I wouldn't trade any of it for the world, even with how it crashed and burned for us.
Wow, man, these amazing stories, and it's fun, like guys like you, the passion that you have for this, people don't understand it if you don't love it like we do. Like I
Yeah.
said, I'm 46 years old, and from the moment I started watching wrestling, I was all in, and I've never taken a break from it. I've never stopped watching, and I can't even imagine my life without wrestling. I met my wife, and she liked it already. Um, it's just crazy, and what we've discovered and what we've joining the Turnbuckle Tavern after what Sneed and Chad created, to be part of this now. Like, I just called into their podcast one day is how it all started, because I had met Sneed through the Major Wrestling Figure podcast group, and like we just clicked right away. So I wound up calling in again, and the next thing they're coming up to me like, hey, listen, we want to start a debate show. You want to be our WWE guy since you love WWE. You see how that worked out. I am now officially all elite.
Love
You know,
it.
where am I? I mean, honestly, I've never worn a shirt up until the Brody Lee shirt of any other wrestling company. I've been WWE diehard my whole entire life, and
Yeah.
and again, like I mentioned earlier, I found that passion for it again, and it's also what's reignited my passion is what we are doing, is what all four of us do together. Whether it's this Sessions podcast where I get to talk to so many different people in the wrestling business, not just wrestlers. I'm learning about things I've always wanted to have conversations with people with. I'm hearing amazing stories from people, and again, like everything inside of me has been reignited. It's like I'm a little kid again. It truly is. I mentioned that before. I'm like a little kid watching wrestling again, loving it, talking about it. I remember going to school, after a wrestling show, and you couldn't wait to talk to your friends. But
Yeah.
now like we're talking to each other and texting each other and calling, and and it's very much thanks to those two chats that if I didn't start doing this with them, I don't know if I would have discovered AEW as much as I did. I had recorded it right from the beginning, and I would watch 5 minutes of it. Like it would take me 5 minutes to watch a whole episode. I would just want to see Jericho because I love Jericho, and I'd want to see Mox. And then, as I slowly watched it, I fell in love. I got to know other people. And then you watch a little
Absolutely.
longer, and to the point to what they've built. And like in the beginning, there was some stuff that was like, okay, but like Tony Khan listened, like his
Yeah.
passion and the way when you listen to what the people say because what they want to hear, it works. If you give the fans what they want, it's only going to make a better product. And I've said this 1,000 times before, but I love the fact um, it's not predictable in AEW. Like any other wrestling show would have had CM Punk come out at the end.
Yeah.
And no, what does he do? He comes out in the very beginning and he cuts his first promo on the very same episode. Like Tony Khan is thinking, how can I do things differently? How can I do things that people aren't expecting? And it's friggin' working. Like, I think we had the conversation over the weekend, oh, of course CM Punk is going to win his first match. No, that's not, of course. Like if he was in WWE, of course he would win his first match. I could see CM Punk wanting to put Darby Allin over in his first match. Like realistically, we don't know what's going to happen. And we could sit here, and we've done this for how long since we've known each other. We sit here trying to book things and think, oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. And then they go and do something totally different than we thought. And it's even better than what we could have even come up with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And like it's it finally feels so awesome to be a wrestling fan again. There was a long time, long time. And it's not like a 5-year thing. It was like, maybe a 10, 15-year thing where you kind of just you didn't get the goosebumps like you did. You didn't get the butterflies in your stomach, much to like what Punk said. If you love
Yeah,
something, let it go, and if it comes back to you, that's true love. And that's what this was. And
yeah.
I felt it since I knew AEW was going to be big, knew it, but I didn't know how big it was going to get, how meaningful it was to me. This company is saving my not just fandom, but my life outside of it. You know, like I have things to look forward to weekly. You know, I got pay per views to look forward to. I outside of real life. You know, like everything is so cool in real life, but like you know, you need that vice, you need that something out there,
You need the
and like
escape.
yeah, and like listen, I'm so passionate about it. Like me and my wife got married in a wrestling ring. You know, we were in full setup. We had entrances. We had you name it. But we set our vows in the middle of that squared circle. You know, it just shows like it's so much bigger than what it is. You know, like anybody you could say it about anything: baseball, hockey, football, movies, Marvel. You know, a lot of people could look at it and say, "Oh, that's silly thing," but it's not silly for us. You know, it's
Nope.
this is real life love. You know, see this thing like fandom is through the roof. Uh, it's some of the cool shit that you could go through emotionally. You know, like highs and lows. We sat in that thing when my brother was sick and he was in the hospital. The doctor said something that sticks with me throughout the rest of my life. He's like, "There's always going to be peaks and valleys." You know, and like it's going to go up and it's going to go down, and you might ride a little bit at the bottom, but you got to go back up to the top eventually. So we had a long valley there, but we
Mhm.
finally hit this peak, and it's only still going up, you know, and it's going to be amazing, dude.
It's like I tell people all the time on here in our YouTube videos, like stop and take it in. Like
Yeah,
we're in the middle of something special. Thanks to Tony Khan and him being a fanboy, no different than you or me, just the means to do it for everybody else. And
absolutely.
and and it's just like I said, and thanks to you guys, like we've connected, we've made this lifelong, bond between the four of us here at the tavern now.
Yeah,
And it's because of wrestling, it's because of our passion. But and you know this, and the guys know this. When one of us has a bad day, like we're just there for each other now.
yeah,
It's like we're four brothers in arms or something. It's just crazy because we're here to talk each other up. We're here to do, even outside of the podcast, we support each other. We love each other. Um,
absolutely.
and
We're
and
not
it,
fans. We're family, man. And like
yeah,
that
like
is something you learn in the wrestling business. Like this, these guys aren't just coworkers. We're all family, man. And we
yeah,
all share that same vision of wanting it to be at the level it's becoming right now. We all want it to be the no pun intended, the pinnacle. And
yeah,
like and
yeah,
we're actually crazy times is that we're actually here to experience it all together.
yeah.
And like I can't thank you guys. Excuse me. I can't thank you, the Chads, anything for more because this is I've always loved this. This is my life. You know, this is always has been my life. It would be my life if there was a podcast or not. But
Yep.
it's the best thing in the world to have three other dudes that love it just as much as I do and share the same vision and passion for it to like the fullest extent. And I couldn't feel I've never been like in a happier space. And that makes me really happy, man. I appreciate you guys for in bringing me on the board, man.
I mean, we're super super happy to have you here. We knew your passion before you joined here, so it's just worked out perfectly. I really, like I said, if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for meeting the two Chads, am I ever driving to Chicago
Yeah.
this weekend? I went out of my comfort zone. I don't usually do this type of stuff.
I
Um,
like forcing people out of their comfort zones.
and it was at a time, this, and not to get into details, but I mentally needed a break from
Yep.
everything. So, and again, like what was my escape? Wrestling. I have a great wife, and she pushed me to do it, and having you there, it just meant so much. Like this whole weekend, I love you guys. I love this group is amazing. I know I've always loved wrestling. I always wanted to do something with wrestling, and for the love of wrestling is what we're doing now. Like we're just having a good time doing it and seeing people like follow us now, and they can't wait to be on our next YouTube video. We have
Yeah.
Tyson and Fabulous Disaster and
I'd
Nick
fit gig,
Storm,
Nick Storm,
Side Fit
every
Gig. Let me shout him out too
I
because I
love
love
that
them all.
kid.
But he sent me such a nice message the other day saying how happy he was because he could see how happy I was being at that event on Friday night. So
Absolutely.
and just the people in this community are just amazing, and the fact that
Yeah.
we're having fun doing this and people are coming along for the ride and supporting us and can't wait to see what we have to say and hang with us on YouTube
Yeah.
almost on a nightly basis during the week. It's crazy. I love these people.
Yeah. And
um
like the coolest thing is it almost like we kind of were fans for so long that it almost like it makes you feel like you never made the wrong decision about doing what you were doing. Like it was always just it's all part of the plan. But it like when I was working for wrestling, like I was like, oh wow, all these years of being the nerd are finally paying off, and like I mean the same thing with you guys. Like I feel and I validated is kind of a pricky term, but I feel validated for all my life of putting towards this. Like
yeah,
we put a lot of time, money, effort into wrestling, and it pays off at the end because like we're meeting all these awesome dudes out there in the world. Thank God for social media. Thank God for having a platform for all of us to do this. Yeah, I couldn't be happier. And like I said, like it's just the coolest thing in the world, man.
it really really is. And again, thank you for doing these shows with me and coming on here today and discussing like everything we discussed. And for us to come to that moment that we've come to, last Friday night, like you said, it just made every minute of being a fan for the last 40 years to me worth it.
Yeah.
Like nobody could shit on it. And if you do,
No.
fuck you.
There's nothing else in the world that can do that feeling for anybody. Like pro
Yeah.
wrestling's what it's at, man. Like
Yeah.
like I, like I said, it was the lowest of lows that we had to travel through to get here. All of us, we all go through hardships in life. I'm not talking about wrestling itself. I'm talking about just in life. We all have gone through numerous things in life, and like bad and good. But
Yeah.
man, when it's good, it smokes it all out of the water.
It's so true, man. Well, I'll plug our stuff since me plugging
Yeah,
our
man.
stuff will plug
But
you. But
before you do, let me
yeah,
just say thank you for taking the time to do this with me, because I have to give it back to you. Thank you for having me on your videos. Thank you for sharing your fandom and love for everything with me and the Chads. And like this has been. I want to say I've been doing this with you guys for about 2 months, maybe, right? Yeah, best 2 months of my life in a long time, man. And I couldn't be more appreciative. I so much mean it. It's just been a blast, and I cannot fucking wait for the future, man.
it is. I can't think of everything that's been going on in my life. I can't imagine what would be going on right now if I didn't have this.
Oh yeah,
So I've said this to you. I've said this to the Chads. It's just amazing. And I had the best weekend, one of the top, if not the top weekend in my life this past weekend. And that's thanks to you for making it
yeah.
happen and making it special. And like that's just the type of connection we've made so
Oh
fast. You
yeah.
can't fake that.
No, but that's what it's supposed to be about. I will
Yeah.
never have anybody come to my town and not show them how to fucking party.
Well,
And I showed you how to
I can't
party.
wait to reciprocate when we get you out
Right?
here.
How about this? It was an awesome weekend. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so happy you made it
Yeah,
out.
it really was an amazing weekend. It is one I will never ever forget. And again, it's all thanks to us four coming together that this happened. And next weekend is going to be another amazing weekend for you guys. And I couldn't be more genuinely happy that my friends will all get to be there and will
Yeah.
be texting me updates and
I
pictures and
I
all
had to
this
return
fun
the
shit.
favor. I got you to Rampage. Then I'm gonna get them in all out. So it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, man. Like I said, we'll get you out to the East Coast and
Yeah,
it'll be fun. But people tell people where they can follow you.
man. I'm anywhere you want to get a Mike Belcaster at. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. And it's just type it up in your stuff. You'll find me somewhere. I probably
Very,
got some.
very good photographer, figure
Thank you.
photographer.
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate that. I post. I'm all over the place. I'm not consistent either, which is probably one of my Achilles heels. But
yeah.
yeah, I love shooting photos, not just wrestling figures, but other things too. Like my last post on Instagram is my CM Punk one, and I felt like I got some really cool shots when we were at the show. Yeah, but I also play music. You could probably find some of that out there too. Just look at your Mike Belcaster at Mike Belcaster wherever you at people.
Yes, and you can follow the. I didn't plug everything in the beginning. I did it different today because it's my show, damn it, and I could do it any way I want. But make sure you're following us. Wherever you can get your podcasts. Search the Turnbuckle Tavern. We got 4 shows a week. We got this show on on Wednesday. On Monday, we got the debate show. On Thursday, we got the flagship show with the awesome Dynamite review. And on Friday, you get the Visits to Tavern series with Chad and Sneeze. And don't forget YouTube. You can find us all over YouTube. I think we're on every night of the week now.
Just about.
Pretty much. Maybe the only thing not scheduled is Tuesdays, and sometimes we jump on live on Tuesdays and discuss
Absolutely.
something. You get all your recap shows, and next week we have we're doing Hanging at the Tavern. Just follow us everywhere. Follow the Pod Foundation at Pod Foundation on Twitter and Instagram. It's totally awesome. A network of wrestling podcasts, and if you follow them on Twitter and Instagram, you'll know when any of the podcasts in that network drop. Get all of our links over at the turnbuckletavern.com. We have our Twitter there, Instagram, our pro wrestling tees. Just check it all out. Oh, if you buy wrestling figures, ringsidecollectibles.com. Use the code Tavern. Save 10%. I mean, who doesn't want to save 10% on anything they buy? There you go. You could go get your Cody LJN from
Yeah.
Unmatched Series 1. It's a great,
Listen,
great
you buy a
figure.
whole case and you use Tavern code. That's your shipping off. Like at least where I'm at. So that's
Yeah.
you save a pretty good penny on lots of stuff.
Yeah. So check it all out. I don't know. I might have forgotten something. I might not have. But check us out. Get a shirt. Oh yeah, go get the OG Fig. Oh, the OG Fig Kid shirt. That's
Yeah.
now available. I'm a Mike Belcaster guy over on prowrestlingtees.com/tavern. And don't forget, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Fig Night. Don't miss it. It's
Yeah.
totally awesome.
It's a
We just
party
sit
and
around.
we talk about
We've
figures, man.
We've had great guests on. They give
Yeah.
great information. Last week we
Sam
had the guy
Roberts,
from
Robert
Squared
Rootman.
Circle Toys. We've had a
Man,
Robert Rubin. Yeah.
he was
This week
awesome, man.
will be another special one. So yeah, make sure you're following us everywhere. Thank you guys for joining us. Really, from the bottom of our hearts.
Yes, sir.
It means so much to us.
And
Your
mans.
support. It's just amazing. So thank you guys, and that's gonna wrap us up for today. We'll see you again next week.